Hey guys, got a really cool knife to bring you today. This is an American Shear and Knife Company knife. It is a regular jack pattern, two blades. It has brass pins and brass liners and carbon steel bolster. And this is a really well-made knife. If you're not familiar with American Shear and Knife Company, they're one of America's older knife companies. Let's see if we get you the tank stamp here. American Shield and Knife Company. You can see that. And you can hear the walk and talk on it. It's really good. It has a pin blade on the other side. You can see that tank stamp a little better there. American Shear and Knife Company. This knife is in pretty good shape. Blades have some wear on them, but they're mostly intact, probably around 90% of what they were. And so American Shear and Knife Company was founded in 1853 as American Shear Company out of Hodgkinsville, New York, or I'm sorry, Hodgkinsville, Connecticut. And remember, Connecticut was just that kind of birthplace of all American cutlery, and then it kind of spread out from there. And initially, this company was just manufactured shears, and possibly some other metallic items. But the company was in trouble in 1857. They were almost bankrupt, and a wealthy farmer called David Cowles, Cowles, came to the rescue, and very quickly, within a year, the company was back into profitability. And it wasn't until 1870 that they started adding pocket knives to their lines. So the date on this knife would be between 1870 and 1914, and that's when the factory burned. You can see the pin work there is not exceedingly great, and is a good indicator that this knife was probably produced in the 1800s, I'd say. I don't think this is a 19th or a 20th century knife. It's well made though, and there's some interesting history on this company. And originally it was eight partners, stockholders, and Cal slowly bought each one of those out until he had the majority and owned the firm. And he put his son in charge, and his son continued the profitability of this company. And then in around 1902, something like that, 1904, that's what it was, 1904, a guy named Dormitzer took control of the company, and he was a partner in the company. And then in 1913, it was sold to Clark Brothers. But before Clark Brothers could do anything with the company, it burned down in 1914. And so that was pretty much the end of this great American company. If you never heard of them, they just made a really good knife. And yeah, you can see how the pins just aren't perfect. I don't really think this knife was made in the 20th century, but it could have been. You never know. And around 1930, the Smithsonian was going around the country collecting interviews of employees that worked in a wide range of companies. and they interviewed a former employee of American Shear Knife Company, and they just referred to her as the widow Buckingham, and she worked for American Shear from 1888 to 1914, and her father immigrated from England when she was 6 years old, and he worked at American Knife and Shear when they first opened up in 1853, and continued on with the company until he passed away. She worked at the company, and she said that they used women to do cleaning and packing. So once the finished knives were done, the women packed them off for shipment. They used young boys there to do the prep on the knives that were completed before they went to finishers that put the finish on the knives. And usually that entailed putting the hefting the scales on the knife, forming the bolsters by sanding and polishing the knives. And she said she made 25 cents a day, and admitted that the men were paid more. And from what I've seen in that time period, they made about $5 a day making these knives. And her father passed away. Her brother worked at American Shear as a grinder, and he died when he was 50, and worked up until the time he got sick. And a lot of those grinders got a similar type of disease as black lung. So that sandstone that they ground these blades on just put a fine mist in the air, and they inhaled that. Ventilation was not very good in these factories. Light was not very good. And so he died from lung failure, and her other brother died from the same thing. They both worked in the factory. And yeah, pretty interesting history. I think it's really cool that you could get an interview with somebody that actually worked and lived in the 1800s like that. It's interesting. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I appreciate it if you like it. And if you'd like to see more content like this from these just crazy cool knives, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you to the channel. You'll know the truth, and it'll set you free. And thanks again for watching the video.